Welcome to the Radio Broadcast, where we play horror, action, drama, and science fiction radio plays. Viewer discretion is advised.
You know what a family heirloom is, right? It's like an inheritance or heritage passed down from generation to generation within a family. While most family heirlooms consisted of books, jewels, houses, maybe even cars, my family passed down a curse. It had started centuries before I was born, when a member of our family fell in love with a Native American against the wish of her father. When she had secretly gotten married and pregnant, her father cast her out. It was only then did she find out about her lover's own family heritage. They had been bound with that thing for as far back as they could remember. They called it Pain Eater. They didn't know where it came from or how it got entangled with their family, but they had tried to separate their fate from it. The Pain Eater would attach itself to the eldest child in the family and cause the person pain and misfortune throughout their life, gaining sustenance from its victims. They had tried all manner of ways to get rid of it, but it had been proven to be impossible. She was heartbroken and felt betrayed by her lover, for he should have told her before they got married, before she got pregnant, because her lover was the eldest child of his father, meaning the curse was abiding with him and would therefore be transferred to hers whenever it was born. He felt bad for the way she had felt and said that there was no way to prevent it from happening, but there was a way to stall it. There was a way to still live a somewhat happy life, and he taught her the family mantra that would dispel the Pain Eater for a time. He was right, though. There was no way to stop the curse. Others had tried, and had done their best to keep from getting pregnant, but always seemed to end up pregnant anyways. My mother had tried too. She stayed away from falling in love and getting married, but it had still failed. One night while she was at a college overseas, she had been gang raped by 5 men in an alley. She doesn't even know who her father is. She had gotten pregnant and hated herself more than anything for failing to protect her would-be children from the curse that plagued her bloodline. She had come back to the family house that was impregnated with enchantments and spells that wasn't able to stop the pain, but it could delay it. As I thought about it, I realized that my ominous 3 wasn't for the dog urine at all. It was a sign, warning me that I had been chosen to be its next vessel. I cried into my pillow, wondering why I was so unlucky. By birth, I should be spared of the curse. I wasn't the first child. Though we may be twins, Jean was still older than me, even if it was just by a minute. Life just isn't fair. Now I understood my mother's nervousness and scared look when we got back from school that day. Somehow she had known that one of us would be chosen that day. Now as she stood by the door to my room, the tears rushing down her eyes, I felt a surprising hatred for her for not trying harder to prevent from getting pregnant. But then I realized that it wasn't even her fault. She was also a victim of this misfortune that was about to befall me. I looked at her with teary eyes and muttered, "Mom," before she rushed over and hugged me.
"I'm so sorry. So very sorry,"
she said, holding my head, the 2 of us weeping like infants. Jean must have heard our cries and came into my room looking alarmed. I felt angry that she could just look so pretty with swollen, sleepy eyes and wild, scattered hair.
"What happened?"
she asked.
"Why are you guys crying?"
"Nothing, my dear,"
my mother said.
"Come, let's all sleep together."
That was the first time I saw it. There was many more nights when it would just come for me. I would wake up some nights to find a smaller version of it seated at the foot of my bed, sometimes turning its back to me and other times staring at me with those deep yellow eyes. Some nights I would see it outside my window, avoiding the areas where light touched, blending into the darkness. It would have even been invisible if not for those glowing eyes. But I think she was just a spirit meant to monitor us during the day, when the Pain Eater could not be around. She had become less threatening ever since the swirling mass appeared, but I still remember the first day we had seen her. Jean and I were in school and it was gym period. Our noses had both picked up something foul and we paused from a game of dodgeball. Jean had seen her first, letting out a long, shrill scream that had got the attention of everybody. I looked to where she had pointed and screamed as well. We both began moving backwards as she approached us, bits of old dead skin falling off her body. She still had skin on most parts of her face, and she resembled one of the women in some of my pictures my mom kept at home. We ran around like frightened hens, falling and tripping over ourselves and screaming ourselves hoarse. After a while, she disappeared, and we calmed down. But the whole school had seen us run and scream at something that wasn't there, and we began the laughingstock of the whole school. Ever since then, we were made fun of in school. I didn't even find it funny, but that's just how people are, isn't it? Jean seemed to be taking it quite easily. The taunting never quite unnerved her like it did me, but maybe that was one of the perks of being pretty and lucky. Whatever jeer someone came with, she would think of something worse to say back to the person. Or if it was a scrawny-looking kid, she would just use physical force. And soon, most of the school just let her be. I wasn't so lucky. I already suffered from low self-esteem way before the incident happened, so my confidence was pretty much in the mud. When someone jeered or mimed a scared little boy, I would go red and look down at my shoes, biting my lips. Some of the older guys would knock my books down. Some would yank my backpack and fling it. There was this particular boy who was very fond of it. I didn't have the courage to stop them, so I would look on. One day he smacked my books away, opened my bag, and poured its contents to the ground before scattering them and walking away laughing. He bumped into Jean, still laughing, as her right hook caught him right in the eye. After people saw his purple and black eye, most of the taunts stopped considerably. I began to suffer from sleep deprivation. I was always scared of it taking me in the middle of the night, so I would just stay awake for as long as I could, reading books until I passed out. But I was so scared that, while asleep, the slightest rustle of wind, creak of the floorboards, or even the cars that sometimes moved at night would wake me up. And I would sit afraid, eyes darting to every corner of the room, making sure the shadows I saw were nothing but mere shadows. My mother suggested that I come stay with her in her room, hoping it would make me feel safer. Well, it did, though it did make me feel ashamed to still share a bed with my mother at that age. But it brought back memories of when the three of us would sleep together and help me get a few more hours of sleep. Sometimes the creaking of floorboards were way too heavy to be night sounds would wake me up. The creaking that was never accompanied with footsteps, but only the smell of evil. Some nights I would wake up to chant with my mother. On other nights I would sleep right through the whole thing and my mother would chant alone, cuddling me like a baby. Sometimes the creaking came continuously for consecutive nights that Jean was scared it would come for her too, and would end up sleeping with us. On the nights that the three of us were pressed together on the small bed, I would have this feeling of elevation and feel like I wasn't so unlucky, for I was loved and just down on my luck. On the days where my sleep deprivation got the better of me, I would think of what I could do to end this misfortune. My mother said the pain eater would never directly hurt me. He would only cause different situations that would bring me pain and that would offer him little sustenance. If I ever allowed it to suck my pain while I slept, though, I would gradually begin to lose pieces of myself till I was nothing but a hollow shell and unrecognizable to even myself. I was covered in scars from accidents that I couldn't explain how they happened. I lost close friends and a few family members, suffered disappointments and all. But I promised I would never be an empty shell. I decided I would not let that happen. I would rather die than allow it to do that, than allow it to win. And I did try. I had precisely 14 suicide attempts before I finally gave up trying. I tried overdosing on my pain medication. They just left me feeling numb for nearly 2 days. I drank bleach, which gave me severe stomach cramps. I began crossing the roads at red lights to try and get knocked over, but the drivers always seemed to know what they were doing. I started going to the community pool and tried drowning myself. Each time I blacked out, I would wake up to find myself in the first aid tent with concerned looks all around me. After the second attempt, my mother realized what it was that I was trying to do.
Benjamin,
She said with eyes full of tears.
trying to kill yourself isn't the answer. It wouldn't even work.
She had said in a manner that made me wonder if she had tried it before.
What you can do now is be strong and fight this. I want you to be strong for me.
She had said.
We don't have a choice in the way we came into the world, nor in the situations that we may find ourselves in. But we do have a choice in the way we leave this world. I want you to fight this. For you, for me, and for Jean. I want you to know that we will always be here for you.
She finished, the tears freely streaming down her eyes now. I would never forget the look in her eyes. Her hair tied in a bun above her head gave her an angelic-type look, like a sad halo. The pain and guilt in her eyes would remain fresh in my memory. A mask of sorrow. I felt guilty. Why? I didn't even know, but I felt like an internal guilt for making my mother look at me like that, and I made up my mind to fight this thing. I would not go down without a fight, I thought aggressively. I began digging and doing research into my family curse. If I ever wanted to happily settle down and have kids and a family of my own, I would have to put an end to this unholy heritage. I began pouring into old Native American books and texts. I joined safe clubs and societies where the occultive was discussed and researched upon. I began using my sleep deprivation to my advantages, staying up late, going over books and websites, trying to find a real clue at least to what it was that had plagued my family for generations. Most of my findings were mostly unhelpful. Dead ends, unproven myths. Some were just stories created by horror buffs. It seemed to notice that I was losing fear of it. It would make the whole house shudder whenever it approached, accompanied by creaks and groans. It would take its time reaching my room. I would hold off on saying the chant till it was very close, and I could peer into the yellow pools of light it called eyes, and smelled the peat in its breath. But I still only recited the chant with my eyes closed. My mother said it was crucial that my eyes were closed, and it would stay that way till I heard the groans of the house as if it settled back to sleep. I made friends in the societies I now find myself in. Some were like therapy groups, where we shared our stories and things like that. It was there that I realized that I wasn't the unlucky one. Neither was I the only one with a family curse. There was Taiwo, a Nigerian whose family curse was that no one made it above the age of 40. There was Zach, whose family was cursed with a disease that made them all experience violent fits and maniacal tendencies. I ensured I never sat beside him during group meetings. There were lots more people with one challenge or another, and I realized that there was a lot of pain in this world. I made up my mind that I would defeat this curse, no matter what it takes. Whatever the costs, I would see the end of this. My first concrete lead had come from one of the Native American history groups I was in. I was the only person in the group that had even a drop of Native American blood. The rest were just enthusiasts, researchers, and a few curious individuals. I had just gotten back from school when I got an email. It was from a girl in the group I had met. She had been fascinated when I told her about my reasons for joining the group. She said she would help me find a way to break it, and she was also the first girl to call me cute. I had gone red all over and choked on my words before giving a strangled "thank you" in reply. The address she gave me belonged to a woman simply known as Teller. The email said that she was a Native American seer and might be able to give me some answers to the pending questions I had. The email ended with, "Let us end this curse, hear it?" which made me laugh and blush. It was a Native American word for beautiful. She probably couldn't find the word for handsome, but I still blushed so hard I thought my cheeks were going to explode. The teller lived in the outskirts of town, while I stayed very close to the center usually, so I had to wait until the weekend when I didn't have school to go. Throughout the week, I was filled with hope and excitement and just couldn't wait for the weekend to come. I couldn't explain it, but I just had this feeling that this was it. This was the break I needed. It would finally be over. I would finally be free. My family would finally be free. My mind went back to the remarks she had put at the end of the email, and I read it over and over and over again, feeling giddy each time. After the curse was broken, maybe we could be together. No one should ever be alone, right? Who knows? Maybe we would even get married. And when the curse was broken, we could have children who would grow up just like normal kids should, free from worry. And though pain was inevitable, they wouldn't have to go through most of the pain that I went through. This story and all related media is copywritten by RDM Productions, Inc. For use, please contact rdmpfilms@gmail.com. And I hope everybody checks out our website at afradioradio.com